What's up, guys? Coming at you live from the Volvo V&L studios. This time I think I am in Knightstown, Indiana. Good old Bobby Knight. Um, so I wanted to come on here today. I got a great guest. His name is Will. Our fathers actually worked together years ago at ODOT. His dad worked, I believe it was in the Rootstown office with my dad in traffic. Um, and so they kind of knew each other. Then Will stayed in contact with my brother throughout the years. Helped him out like around the house and stuff. And him and my brother have a great relationship. And so Will was one of the first people to reach out to me as far as coming on, telling his story. Will's got a great story, and I just want to get it out there for everybody. So without further ado, this is my guy, Will Berry. And is there anything you want to just say hi to everybody real quick?
Well, just want to say hi. I really appreciate you doing what you're doing. I think it's admirable to get people's stories out there, not just your own, but other people's stories, and to let people know that, hey, things happen in life, but you can rebound and you can do, it's all up to you. So
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, man. Funny, dude. Honestly, Will, I had no idea you were even locked up. To be honest with you, when you reached out to me, I did like a double take at the computer, and I was like, okay. I was like, well, I can rock with Will, so let's see what happens. So,
yeah.
so just to kind of start off, Will, tell me a little bit about what your childhood was like. I mean, I judging from what my dad said and what I've spoken with Todd, like you came from a pretty decent family, right? Like your dad
Yeah.
was a really great guy, really respectable guy. I know my dad really enjoyed him. So go ahead and just tell me and tell everybody kind of like your childhood, growing up, adolescent years, so on and so forth. Who is Will Berry?
So growing up, man, I was just, a silly, goofy kid, man. Had a great upbringing, parents, great mom, great dad, together 60 years now. They definitely raised me the right way. I made my own mistakes. You know, Played sports, lifted weights. I think that's one of the first times I saw, maybe not the first time I saw you, but, in the gym,
Yeah.
later on in life, so, I really enjoyed a lot, physical activity, playing sports. Mom and dad were awesome. Nobody can tell me I don't have the greatest parents. They
Yeah.
did, they did right by me. But I'm a hard-headed kid. I did the same things that dumb teenage boys do. I never was really in trouble. Never really got in trouble. I was more scared of my parents than the cops anyway. So,
Yeah.
my dad, big guy, he's 6'8", so he only had to say something, and I was, buck right up and do what I had to do. But my adolescence was great, man. Did decent in school. Like I said, played sports. Same thing as any teenage boy would do that had a decent upbringing. Still rebellious against my parents. Of course, between the ages of 13 and 18, it all at this point. So,
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, my adolescent years were awesome, man. I had a great time. I think when I was in high school is when 9/11 happened. I was going to go and play. I thought I was going to go play college football. I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't really into school. School just wasn't my thing, but I did good.
Yeah.
I did well because my mom said you got to do well. But 9/11 happened, and I felt like, hey, my country needs me. So that's, so I joined the military actually my junior year of high school. They had to sign the papers for me and all that good stuff. But you know, I had a great upbringing. I'm just a silly, goofy dude, man. I like to live life. I like to have fun. I like to make people smile, if I can. I like to be happy myself, and I had a great, like I said, great upbringing, and my parents were awesome. Yeah, like I said, your brother, I used to cut.
Yeah.
That was like one of my first jobs. I'd go cut his grass. So even though he didn't need me to do it, he just was like,
That's
oh,
Todd, man. Yeah,
yep.
that's Todd.
There was
So
times he'd cut the grass and I'd come up to cut it and he'd still give me money. I'm like,
how's
okay,
this work? Can I
yeah,
get a few more accounts like this?
right. I know, right? But I was about 14 or 15, saving up to get a car and stuff like that. But yeah, It was, yeah, pretty, living on that street, it was pretty awesome, man. I had friends and we played backyard football. I mean, it was just a different time, there were no
Yeah.
phones and iPads and.
So I want to roll it back just a little bit because you made a statement that was totally relatable to me, and it was you were more afraid of your parents than you were of the law.
Mhm.
And that's how, and I find it interesting this day and age that like you have this whole dynamic in the family where overarchingly parents aren't present anymore. It's electronics raising kids, and that fear of your parents just isn't there anymore. And I think that's one of the factors that continue to like contribute to people going to prison, people getting in trouble. But it's also it's on the flip side, you have guys where like yourself and like me, we had good upbringings, we had good parents, we had present parents. We were just hard-headed kids, but I think our generation was a little wilder than this generation. And I know
Mhm.
every generation says that, but looking back on it, like the dumb stuff that I did compared to like other kids, and I'm sure you can attest, it's almost like I look at them now and I'm like, oh, like it doesn't really compare on that level. But yeah, it was super funny because I always remember being terrified of my father,
Yes, my
not
dad.
my and disappointing my mother. That was
Right,
always the
exactly
yeah.
the same. Yep, the
Um,
disappointment and the fear of dad. This is because dad, he don't care if you disappoint him. He was the authoritarian.
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so you had a decent childhood growing up. You had a good childhood. I mean, Todd even said like knowing your dad and everything, like house was clean, house was immaculate. Your dad was a great guy. My dad always said he was a great guy. So a decent upbringing coming up. And so then you joined the military, which I want to commend you for. I think that's super admirable. There's been times that I wish I would have joined the military. I didn't, you know what I mean? I got caught up in that life, but it's I respect that you did that. So tell me a little bit more about I'm assuming you deployed shortly after, or you went to base as soon as you graduated. Tell me a little bit about your military experience and where you were at.
Yep. So I graduated. I mean, I graduated. I think it was in June or something. Having graduation party, and then July 9th, I think, is when I shipped out. Mom wasn't. My dad was okay with it. My mom really wasn't. She was. I mean, it's just a mom. I mean, war is going on at this point. I
Well,
mean, this
yeah.
is, yeah. You know what I mean? And for me, joining, it was just something I wanted to be a part of. Something I've always been a person to want to be a part of something bigger than myself and to help out and do whatever I can and help where I can. I don't know if and I think that's just me because, not, in a selfish way, it helps me, and helps me to feel a part of, helping and doing
Yeah,
something.
I mean, that's a big part of mental health too, and I think that's a big part of staying on the up and up and stay always progressing. Is you know what I mean? Even if you're doing, I'm the same way. You do things for others, and it
Right.
gives you that sense of community, that sense of I'm helping, which also helps yourself, obviously.
Helps me,
So,
right. And so joined, I deployed, as ironically, I touched down in Iraq September 11th, 2004. And touchdown. It was from the time I got there till, I got home. It was, we were full go. I was wounded in November of
what? So
2004.
let me stop you. What branch of the military did you enlist in? And
Oh
go
yeah,
ahead.
sorry. I was in the United States Army. My
Okay.
OS was psychological operations.
Okay.
Uh, my unit was the 350th Psychological Operations Unit. As a reserve unit. Um, and it was, we knew. I mean, I knew before I left basic training that I was going. So
So psychological unit. Give me a little bit of detail what that is, because that sounds pretty badass. But I'm
it's, it's basically, to put it in terms that we're basically, the best way I explain the good cop or the bad cop relationship. You got the guys that go in and bust doors down and do what they do, and then you got us who, we just try to get. We want you. It's the best way to explain it without sounding too. We want you to believe. We want you to believe what we need you to believe to get what we need done.
okay. Okay.
And not, I'm not saying that we lie or anything like that, but there are also things, that we, just letting people, putting information out there to, my job was basically to understand where I was going and to understand the people and how to communicate with the people and how to get them to do what we wanted them to do without having to do it violently.
Right.
You
Okay.
know, people think, oh, army violence. No, the army doesn't, or the military in general, the violence is not the first thing that
Yeah.
they think of. They would rather not do that if they could. But so I was the portion of, let's go once again, helping, being a part of something. Now, obviously, things happen. I
Things
mean,
happen.
it's the military. So, I mean, I was, our MOS is part of Special Operations Forces because of some of the things that we know and the things that we have to do at times. So we had to, there had to be like security clearances and stuff like that. So, I mean, it sounds a lot more badass than it was, but on a day-to-day basis, as far as war was concerned, it was really trying to preserve life
Okay.
uh, when we could, and if we couldn't, obviously you do what you got to do. But that so I for when that job came up for me, I jumped at the opportunity. One of our slogans is to win the hearts and the minds. Like, that we want to, why we don't want to, we would like to work with you. We don't want to just come over there and do
Yeah.
bad stuff all the time, so um it was a very, they didn't want to talk, I'll say that.
Well, but I will say I appreciate that you explain that, because I mean, anytime anybody immediately mentions war or an offensive or something going on overseas, I mean, I'm the same way. I immediately think, oh, bombs are dropping, guns are going off, it's pure chaos. And while that may be happening, I don't think a lot of people understand that like units like that exist. So I'm
Right, I
glad you
mean,
put that out there. You know what I mean? Like I personally, I knew there was I knew there was like obviously like psychological stuff that goes on through war, but to know there's like units that going in and booting doors isn't the first line of defense. I mean, a lot of people don't know that.
right.
So
Once again, and like I said, on the flip side of that, I mean, it's obviously we're thinking about America first at this point. So, if there are things that we have to do in order to deceive people, in order to make sure our people are safe, I mean that all that stuff too. I mean, it was a plethora of things that we were there. Like I said, when I was there, they weren't really fond of talking. It wasn't a
yeah.
talking time. 2004. It was pretty. Like I said, it was pretty. I got there in September and I got wounded in November, so it was pretty
How'd you
intense.
get wounded?
They actually got us at we had just got off a mission, and we were going. I think there was I believe some way somehow. I mean, our base got mortared or rocketed every day, and it was at dinner time, and so we just got back. I was done for the day, I thought, and mortar hit Chow Hall, and I got clipped with some shrapnel in the arm and on my side, and I mean, it's kind of, I was like, holy, this is not like Call of Duty. This is for real.
So yeah, I remember, do you remember my cousin Brian? I don't know if you ever met him. He would have been over at Todd's with me when we were younger, but then again, I wasn't really, I mean, I knew of you back then, but you and I weren't really like
Right.
friends or hanging out back then. He was over there. He was an IT specialist, so he never really even went off base. And he used to, like, we would get phone calls. He would say, he'd be like, they just mortar the base like all
Yeah.
day, all night, like. And he came back a little off from it, but I mean, I can
Yeah.
understand that. Like, that's traumatic, dude.
I
Like
don't care what
you
your
lay,
job is.
yeah, you lay down and you're going to sleep, and you're like, is my bunk going to be the one that gets hit with a mortar tonight? Like, that's terrifying, dude. Like, I wouldn't be able to sleep.
That is nerve wracking. That's what I explain to people. People are like, well, I was just a cook, or I was just this, or this person was just that. It doesn't, to know that at any moment, it doesn't matter, at any moment
Yeah,
that it doesn't even, you don't have to die, but you could be maimed or hurt or just at any moment. I mean,
right.
they knew that they couldn't fight us head to head or whatever else. So they do, they go towards
Yep.
when everybody goes off base, do their missions, everybody else that's there, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
they were not stupid. So that is to think that way and to be there, say you're a year, you're there for a year or whatever. I don't care if you're an IT specialist or a cook, and you're just thinking, is today the day? Am I going to get to see my
Yep.
family tomorrow? Can I make that phone call? That is, and honestly, that's probably partially what led up to me, ending up where I did
Yeah.
and the things that, later on, because I was 18 years old. My dad had guns when I was a child, but it was just understood. Don't touch them. Don't,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? They're here. And so I never really shot a gun until the military. So, I
Right.
mean, even for that, that's a, people might be tough. Hey, guns, this, that, or the other. Shoot a gun. That's a traumatic thing. If you've never done it,
Yeah.
I mean, hey, it's more than just pulling the trigger. And there's somebody
Right.
at the end of it.
Well,
You
you
got
went
to
from,
consider.
I mean, you go for, I mean, we grew up in the country, like we grew up shooting guns but to go into a situation where, there's a body at the other end of it, that's a whole other animal in itself. You know what I mean? So yeah,
Right.
I get that. Okay. So you go to war, you're over in Iraq. Obviously I can see where like there's trauma that's like building there. And then so you come home, and how was your transition home, and what exactly happened with your charges, or what, like, I'll let you kind of get into it, because I like I said, I didn't even know you had been away or done anything. So go ahead and just kind of explain your transition home, and then go into like where everything started falling apart.
So basically, you come home. I come home from overseas. I'm still in the military because I'm in the reserves at the time. Excuse me. And so, for me, what happened, honestly, is you're going 100 miles an hour a day, and then you come home, dead stop.
Yep.
19, 20 years old. I don't have a job at the time. I'm filing for unemployment. I'm feeling kind of like, and knowing who my dad was and the work ethic. I'm coming home and I don't have a job. No, he wasn't saying anything. It's just how I felt because how I was raised.
Right.
And I'm married, young married at that time. I had married in the military, and so I ended up getting a job and things started happening. But life was good. I had a great job with the city. But I was numbing. I didn't. I just came home from war, and so drinking. I drank and drank and drank. I mean, I couldn't sleep, so I drank to sleep. I would. I mean, there was times I'd take Benadryl just so I could sleep. Just couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
So I drank and drank. So that was really what happened. That's really what started to the downfall for me. Was drinking, um, because I was just not. I was numbing. I was just numbing and numbing and numbing. I didn't go seek any help. I didn't. I didn't go when I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to talk about it. So it was
Yeah.
like, why am I going to go talk about it? Did went to saw. Then ended up getting on some medications. I finally did. Then they put me on some stuff that just made me even more numb than alcohol. I mean,
Yep.
I was just a zombie, and that's just not, that just wasn't who I was. And so I think all of that numbing, what came with that was anger, uh, and being just upset and mad, just on edge all the time. So I need a drink. I need a drink to help that on edge, right?
Because yeah, because that's gonna, yeah.
Because that helped, because that was my 19, 20-year old way of thinking. I need a drink because it calms me down. Couldn't do any drugs or anything like that, because I was still in the military. So, but drinking, hey, you know what, that's still illegal for me at this time because I'm not 21, but we don't really frown upon it. You've been to war. So so then there was just a situation with my now ex-wife, that I was just in a complete, I can't, and honestly, I was just in a complete rage. Didn't physically abuse her, hitting or punching her like that, but was just loud and just saying really, probably very scary things to a little lady. I'm a big guy at this point too.
Yeah.
I'm in the military and I just came home from war, and so I ended up going. So my charge was burglary and domestic violence. Ended up, we were arguing, fighting. Ended up going to, she went over to her mom's house. Once again, I'm drinking. I had went to work, and what's funny is this is why I know my parents. My parents are just awesome. My mom said I was going to work, and my mom said, "Just feel something. Go to work. Come over." It was July 4th, actually. Go to work. Come get a plate. We'll get you a plate. Go to work. Just go to work. She knew me and my wife at the time were arguing. Just go to work. Did I listen? No, I didn't listen. So then I go to my mother-in-law's house because that's where she's at. They didn't let me in. I banging on the door, bang on the door. Door falls down. She said I kicked it. I didn't kick it, but I was a big guy. I was still working out,
Yeah.
and it really only took my fist. So went into the house, and it was like I said, I don't remember a whole bunch of what happened in the house. Nobody was hurt, nobody was injured. I mean, there was nothing like that.
Yeah.
I literally was in a one-track mind of she had my cell phone. I need my cell phone. But obviously there was more to it than that as far as what was going on. That was just at that point, whatever's going on with me with the drinking, whatever, that was my laser. I want my cell phone, so I'm going to get it. Pamper. It's a grown man tantrum is what I did. Yeah. Everything that I got, I deserved. Everything that, the trouble that I got into for it, I deserved it. I never discounted it, never thought that, I'm being treated unfairly. None of that.
Well, I guess I have to, and I can either ask this in a minute or I could ask it now, but me personally, because you had no prior convictions, you had nothing else on your record, right?
Nothing at that point. Nope.
So at that point, and this is what sent you to prison?
So that was the incident. This is why I said I was treated fairly. I got sentenced to 1 year of probation.
Okay.
For that incident, for which everyone was like, yeah. I made it through probation for 8 months. Started drinking again.
Okay.
Got into an argument. She called the cops, and that in and of itself was enough. That was enough for them to revoke my probation. So then that's what sent me. So that's why I said I wasn't treated unfairly. I had no conviction. Yeah, I wasn't. I made my own mistake.
I was looking at this like, I'm like, dude served in the military. This is his first offense. Now I'm aware that type of burglary is an F3 because my burglaries were F2s. So that's an F3. But even so, you still have to meet certain criteria for that. So I'm like, I'm sitting here listening to your story like they railroaded you, dude. No, that makes sense. So you got probation, and then violated your probation, and then obviously you went down the road. So I'm assuming they gave you notice. Did they take you right at probation down to jail, or did they give you time to turn yourself in?
No, I went. So what happened is I went, after all of it, after the probation thing, and they sent me the notice. I went to jail for that incident. They did come and pick me up that same day, at home, and I was in jail for about 17 days. Got out. I was able to get out, and then I had to go to a hearing. Had to go to the hearing, the probation hearing, whatever. It was at court. I had to go to and so I did that, and that was actually on my birthday, June 15th, and that's when I got sentenced to 3 years. I got sentenced to 3 years for violating probation. The judge basically told me, my attorney said, "Hey, military, this, alcohol." And the judge basically said, "Well, yeah, there's been plenty of people that went to the military that don't have issues. So anyway, 3 years. Have a good day. Is there anything you want to say, Mr. Berry?" I'm like, "Nah." I'm counting on my hand like, "No, I guess not." Like,
right.
But once again, I didn't get treated so unfairly. I mean, to come from I got charged with an F2, then they dropped to an F3, and 1 year of probation, and then would have wiped it out at that point.
Yeah.
But then once again, addiction. I messed up with drinking, and I was like, I'm almost done anyway. I can have a drink. You know what I mean? So
yep.
And that's just, for me, that's what happened. Like I said, I wasn't treated unfairly. Did I want to go to prison? Absolutely not. But I don't think nothing in this world is not ordained by God. I think I needed it. I think
absolutely.
I think that I could have been in prison a lot longer for something much worse eventually, had I not gotten that time God needed to pull me away. He needed to pull me away and get me by myself. They used my military kind of not against me, but like, you're special. You were part of a special operations and you're dangerous and this. So, I mean, I was, and plus, they violent felony or whatever. I'm locked up in my cell for 23 hours a day when I was at Lorraine. So I had a lot of time to think.
Yeah.
So I mean, for me, at that point in my life, I have a child. I had a child at that time. He was 2 years old. Uh, I had, a wife, well, going to be an ex-wife at that point in a home, and what my actions had just jeopardized my wife and my child, and and how they can live. I'm not there
Yeah.
to make. I can't. She worked as well. But I'm like, I'm not there to take care of my son. I'm not there for my son. I'm not there to make money and help. Um, so I've never been one to make an excuse. If I did it, I did it. If I own, I'm going to own up to it and take my lashes and go. That's because that's the way I was raised. My mom, like, hey, yeah, I saw you do that. You can lie about it all day, but I saw it, so
Right.
it doesn't matter.
No,
And so,
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, I mean, our, I'm listening to you talk and I feel like our personalities are very much alike. We're almost the same person. Because I've always been it doesn't matter. You take responsibility. Like you know what I mean? I'm caught. I'm caught. Here's what I did, whatever. Mom and dad catch me. Hey, I'm caught. Um, just talking to you, you can tell like you have a big heart. You're not out to hurt anybody. You want to help people. You know what I mean? And so throughout the years, it's just one of those, you get tied up in shit and the substances don't help.
Right.
Um, I mean, obviously, I went a little further down the rabbit hole with the heroin and the pills and everything else, but alcohol is just as alcohol is just as awful and
It's
terrible as anything else that's out there.
it's
Um,
worse. I feel like it's because it's legal. It's worse.
yeah. Well,
It's one of
yeah, and people, yeah, it's not regulated. It's not, I mean, unless you're
right,
under 21, but even if you're
right.
under 21, you still have access to it.
Mhm.
Um, it's just wild listening to your stories because I can relate on so many levels. Um, okay, so you go through county, you're deemed like special ops, so they're kind of like treating you, you're getting the 23 and 1, which me and my buddy talked about it the other day. I don't know if it's because we're just big dudes, but they threw us in the 23 and 1 too, probably for observation to see how we were going to act. And then we get to Lorraine. So you're obviously, you're what, 25 at the time? How
Yep.
old were
I
you?
was, yeah, I was 20. It was actually, I was 2009. Yeah, I was 20. Yeah, 25. 25. Just turned 25.
So 25 years old. Obviously, you haven't been an adult too long, and you've been overseas in war, so you're familiar with combat. You're familiar with living in a high stress environment. What was it like being at Lorraine, where you are walking around with? I mean, you're going to Chow, and you got dudes doing life. You're walking to Chow, and you got guys that are in there for crazy shit. What was that like for you? How did you feel?
For me, thinking that I was about to do 3 years, the first thing I'm thinking is judicial release. Like, I'm not staying in here for 3 years. So I want to be good.
Yeah,
I want to do, you know what I mean? I'm obviously, and I'm not the baddest dude in the world, but I know my capabilities, and I know, and so I wasn't scared. I wasn't nervous about anything. I wasn't like, I don't. So what? You murdered somebody. That's cool. There was guys that there was always going to be those guys that were trying to be,
yeah,
tough or whatever. I'm like, it's not. I'm not here for that. I'm here to do like, I'm here to get the hell out as quickly as
yeah,
possible. I didn't have a whole bunch of issues in there because I kind of stayed to myself. So if and you'll know this, if you stay to yourself and if you don't really bother nobody, you're not doing nothing, you're not really associated with it. People may not mess with you because they're like, I don't know, I don't.
yeah,
Is it worth messing with this dude, or is it worth, you know what I mean? Or he's just
yeah,
not about, you know what I mean? And so I didn't hang out with, like, I read, I worked out, I got really involved in church, and really got back to my faith. And that's what my mom said. Hey, few things that'll put people back to God is prison and the military. And
yeah,
so I had to put my mindset of, why am I here? This is not where I'm supposed. This is not the path my life was supposed to. I'm not that. And I'm not going to say there's typical, but I came from a strong family household. I came from all that, just like you. I came from all that stuff. And this is not, I'm
yep,
supposed to be in college, or I'm supposed to be doing this. Why am I here? So I had to really sit down and do some self-reflection. Like, and that's where I found out, like, being here, this probably saved your life from something worse, drinking and driving could have killed somebody, still be
Yeah.
in jail. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or things like that. So I had to really take that self-reflection and look and say, why am I here? So, me and God had it out. And I'm like, I was mad. I'm like, I can't believe it. I'm in prison. I can't believe it. I got a record. And but it didn't, it hindsight as an older adult man now understanding that probably saved my life, because once again everything's ordained by God, and I'm a heavy Christian, so it saved my life. So
Yeah. And I love that you say that, because I've had a couple other guys on that have said the exact same thing. And it's legitimately, it's a mindset when you get down there. If you go down there, that you're going to get caught up, because especially Lake Erie, when I was down there, anything you wanted was available. It was, I could have went down there and gotten right back into shooting dope and gambling and doing all the bullshit. You know what I mean? Drinking all the time. And, but I went down there with the mindset of, this is just it. It's enough. I've had too much. Everything happens for a reason. I'm here for a reason. This is an opportunity. It's not I'm not going to look at, yeah, it's a punishment, but I didn't look at it as I was going to make the best of it.
right,
And I love talking to guys, you, my buddy Nick, my buddy Tyler, like we've all been in that mindset of, I'm going down and I'm going to do my time, but I'm going to better myself physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, while I'm down there. And then these are the guys that you see that come home and they actually do something with their lives. These are the guys that come home and they're okay. They don't go back. This is the 17% of people that don't go back to prison in 10 years. You know what I mean?
right.
Post release. And that's one of the main focal points that I want to get out there in this is you have to understand that if it's you're going to prison or you're coming home from prison, maybe you're in prison and you hear this, maybe you're already out of prison. If you don't change your mindset, nothing changes if nothing changes. That was the old saying down on the yard down in Lake Erie that I heard all the time. And these boys would just holler, nothing changes if nothing changes. And I'm like, and you know what I mean? But it's the truest
It's
statement
true.
ever.
Yeah, true statement ever. Like, I just didn't. It's miserable there anyway. So why are you gonna walk around miserable? Try to make the best. Like, waking up in the morning, like, shit, I'm still here. But you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
I
but
know.
you
Yep.
know, but just making the best of it. And like I said, I was like, if I'm gonna be here, I'm gonna do something. I played softball. I played,
Yeah.
they had flag football. I just did stuff, and I was like, I'm just gonna make it. Does it suck? Absolutely, but I'm gonna make the best of. You're stagnant right now, anyway.
Yeah.
Life's happening still outside, but you're stagnant. So you have the opportunity right now to do whatever it is you want to do. I mean, to whatever you want to do to better yourself within the means that you have there, you can do it. So I just made it an attempt, and I wanted to be tired, so then I went to bed. You know what I mean? So I'd work out all day long. I mean, I'd work
Yeah.
out 3 times a day. Water was free. I'll take 5 showers if I want to. I mean, and so I just wanted to, and I wanted to get out. I wanted to be a good inmate. I mean, just quite. I mean, is how that sound? I wanted to get out. I wanted the opportunity to be able to get out early. And so, I wasn't, I just wasn't down there I wasn't on no BS. Once again, I had a very, 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 very strong, supportive family, extended family, veteran organizations that I was a part of. I had a very strong, so the support was there. It was, having the support, people telling me just to hang on, so I already disappointed you because I'm in prison. So I don't want to disappoint you anymore by doing stupid shit
Yeah.
while I'm here. So when I
Yeah.
get, so now, and so when I get out, I want you to be proud of me, proud of me again. Not that, you know what I mean? So it was, like I said, man, it was probably, looking back, I couldn't tell you, I couldn't tell you how a typical day was. It's like, it's so far, like I forgot, like so far out of my head.
That's
It's
so I have to ask you real quick. Do you remember your DOC number, your inmate number?
Nope, don't
And
even
I
remember.
love it. I love it. And this is a point, and I'm going to start asking everybody this because I asked my buddy the other day. I forgot that number as soon as I walked out that gate because I was like, I'm not the one. You know what I mean? I'm done with this. I couldn't tell you. I even asked. So the 20th of this month is when I'm going to release all the episodes and everything. It's September 20th. That was my touchdown date that I came home 10 years ago.
Okay.
So I figured it would be like a good day to release everything. But I was asking my wife, I'm like, hey, could you hop on the DOC website and pull up my mugshot and pull up my DOC number? Because I was just curious, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
like put my DOC number on the webpage or something. They've even forgot. They ain't forgot about it. I know it's still in the system
Yeah, it's
somewhere, but
somewhere. Yeah.
it's 10 years back. None of that's available online anymore. And
Yeah.
so to me, that's God. Like, I forgot about it. A couple of the boys have forgotten about it. And that's one thing I love hearing is when I'm like, what's your DOC? Because you get that DOC number, and the guys down the way, they act like that's like street cred or something. And I'm like, what are you flexing your DOC number for? Like, you know
Right.
what I mean? So I think it's a bigger flex when I'm like, hey, what was your DOC number? And you're like, well, I don't know. You know what I
I
mean? So,
no clue.
all right, that's cool. So you went through Lake Erie. What was obviously going from Lorain to Lake Erie is a big change. I mean, you go from a reception facility where it's 23 and 1, 20, that's for people that don't know, 23 hours you're locked up, 1 hour you're out. And then you go to a level 2 facility where it's basically open dorms. Um, I, it's open dorms. You get yard access time where you can go work out, you can play softball, you can go do dips, pull ups, walk the track. Um, there's a lot more freedom, a lot more ability to kind of roam and do what you want and link up with people. So what was your time at Lake Erie like?
It was really actually, and I won't mention names, but I was locked up with a couple of guys that I went to school with that were down there, and so coming in, it's really amazing to me how news spreads within a prison. Like
Oh yeah. Yeah.
people knew that I was coming there before I got there.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So, I got there and immediately, had got taken care of. These are my guys from town, and they were kind of in this. They were saying, we were like, "What in the hell are you, Will
Right.
Berry, doing in prison?" Like they literally like, "There's no way." So anyway, but yeah, so my down there, it wasn't for me. It wasn't all. It was awful, but it wasn't like I said. I had a mindset. I'm coming here to leave and never come back.
Yeah.
So my mindset was, what am I going to do to better myself while I'm here? What do I have? What options do I have? And so, I did some school stuff, some Toastmaster stuff. Any programs that I was able to get into, I would do. Like I said, I played softball and football. So we had practices for softball. We had football. You know what I mean? So my days were pretty full. With being able to, do stuff. Obviously, you gotta, it's coordinated and regulated, by guards and everything. But I mean, I don't know, I met some people in there that, obviously I don't, you don't trust everybody, but I met some people in there that have the same mindset. Like, we just want to get the heck out. We want to get out of here.
Yeah.
Obviously prisons, broken up into, black and white and this and that. And then you got the people
Yep.
that just don't give a shit. I didn't care.
Yeah.
I didn't care. I grew up in Ravenna, Ohio. I mean, you bleed just like I bleed. So I don't
Yeah.
care. I don't want to see anyone ever done wrong. If I can help it, I don't want to see, people mistreated if I can help it. And things like that. So for me, I just took it as, this is life. This is my life right now. This is what I got to do.
Yep.
I got to do it, and I got to do it the way they want me to do it in order to get out of here. I mean, that was literally, I want to get out. Period.
No,
I watched
it's funny listening to you say that because everybody that I've talked to thus far, it's the same mindset. I'm here to just do my time. I'm going to better myself and I'm going to go home. And I'm going to keep going back to that throughout these episodes because that's obviously the common denominator here. You know what I mean? That's the common factor that everybody goes into this, that it needs to be the foundation for everybody to understand. you can crawl out of that hole. Like that's not, you know what I mean? Just because society is going to look at you. I mean, you know me from the streets. I love throwing my middle fingers up and being like, fuck society, like fuck the system,
Right.
fuck what everybody thinks. Like I do me. And if you don't like it, that's tough shit. But that has to be it. I hate that society has that. And that's kind of where that mentality comes from. But it's also a mentality of, I already screwed up once. I'm not doing anything else to screw anything else up, but I'm going to better myself to show society that they can kiss my ass. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I totally get that because I was thinking about that same way because people, you'll say I can look at somebody and say I don't give a shit what you think, but I
Yeah.
do. I do give a shit what you think because I
Yeah.
don't want you to look at me that way. Now I can say I
Right.
don't care. Now as long as I'm doing what I know what I'm doing is right, and you still have something to say, okay, cool, fuck off, right?
Yeah.
But that like that's like you said, you like I want to show this is not who I am. What I did in the past is not the person that I am. I messed
No, and
up.
that, yeah, and that's another main goal of this is just to kind of, I want people to see and to understand like who these people actually are that have these felonies, and that there are, I've made this statement before too. I know tons of guys on paper that have the $1 million homes that have never committed a crime, still have skeletons in their closet,
Mm-hmm.
still are pieces of shit that'll rip you off, that'll fuck you over in a heartbeat. I also know tons of felons. I know tons of felons that are out working to be better, that would give you the shirt off their back, give you their last $10, help you with groceries, whatever you need, because they've seen rock bottom. They know what it's like to be considered a second class citizen. You know what I mean? Like, and then you've got these other guys that they're just kind of sitting up here on their high horse the whole time because they just think they're better. And that's my kind of view on society with all this is, it's easy to look at somebody. I mean, and in this day and age, it's easy to look at somebody and point the finger and be like, well, I don't like the color of your skin. I don't like the fact that you have a felony. I don't like the fact that, you know what I mean? And just base um, a completely what's the word? Unbiased or biased
Yeah,
decision.
yeah, unbiased, like basically a judgment of just because of.
Yeah. So, okay. So you go through Lake Erie, you've got this mindset. So tell me, when you finally get your release date, I'm assuming you went back to county and got your judicial, because you said you did a year, right?
Yeah. So what happened is when I got. That's why I said I was never treated unfairly. So what happened is I got
Hey,
sentenced. So
Will.
when I got sentenced,
Hey,
they gave me the probation,
hey,
right? The judge.
Will.
Can,
You might have to go back in because your Wi-Fi is cutting out, and it's not gonna.
oh, sorry
It's
about
not
that.
gonna.
My bad. Hold on one
No,
second.
you're
I have to
good.
run
I
outside.
had it. You're good. It happened the other night, and I lost the whole tail end of the video.
Okay. Yep. Nope.
Once it starts getting choppy.
Yep. No, just ran out to the car real quick. But anyway, so I got sentenced, and then so what happened is the judge only put a year over my head, right? But so when I got resentenced, when they revoked my probation, the judge gave me 3 years. They can't do that. Apparently, they can't do that. So what happened is when I was down in Lorraine, and they came back and they had to resentence me.
Okay.
Because I was slotted for 3 years. That was my sentence at that point, 3 years. Though they resentenced me to that year. So what happened is with all the time from county and all that, I had almost been. It was almost a year anyway.
Yeah.
So they had resentenced me. I went back. I think I went back to Lorraine for a couple of days. Went to Lake Erie, and I was in Lake Erie for all of 5 months. By the time they
Okay.
got it all sorted out, so I think what happened is my paperwork got jacked. That's why I stayed at Lorraine so long.
Yeah.
Because they're like, hey, somebody looked at it and said this guy shouldn't be sentenced to 3 years because it's not legal.
Yeah.
So I was like, I was in reception for 5 months, I think, something like that, stupid. And um, so then yeah, so I went there. So I was only at Lake Erie long enough, like I said, 4 or 5 months, I think it was.
Okay.
And they sent me my release date, and I'm like, okay. And then like even the heart
I'm
in
not
me,
saying
like,
a thing. I'm like, I'm gonna
right.
leave
I'm
this
thinking
be
to
and see
myself,
if they just come and get me.
right, if they let me out on that day, I'm gonna go. If they say something
Yeah.
different, I'm not gonna be pissed about it. But I'm like, all right. Ended up that was the day. Walked out. Thank God. Knock on wood and pray, and I never went
Man,
back.
I remember those stressors of being called because I had to go back and forth a few times. I had good buddies of mine down there that I had met that were good, solid dudes. They just and you see it constantly, man. It's they drag you back to court. They play these stupid games, and I always looked at it like you guys have been doing this for how long, how many years, and it's the most dysfunctional, excuse my language, fucked up system that I've ever seen in my life. And they just play with people's time like it's nothing. Like
Right.
it's like that judge threw 3 years at you and legally he couldn't even do it. And then you go down and you sit and you're stressing over 3 years, knowing that that's because I'm going to be honest, even here in 3 years, off the top of my head, that's not right. You know what I
I know.
mean? But now you're down there and you got 3 years on top of you, and you're like, is somebody going to advocate for me? Is this actually, am I going to sit here for 3 years? It's just all this, it's, it's all this stress on top of stress on top of stress. And people don't understand how traumatic that is over time. People don't understand. And then going back, that's why you have a lot of these guys that they just get sucked in from all that trauma they bring home with them. They don't know how to cope with it. They don't know how to deal with it. And then they're right back in jail. Um, but so okay, so you came home. What was the driving force when you came home? I mean, obviously you have a kid. You have one. You still only have one, right? Or do you have more than?
I have three. I have two little girls and a boy. My boy's the
Okay,
oldest. I had him when I went to jail.
okay. So you come home. Obviously you have your son. I will tell you, my kids were my driving force. Obviously it was me, but I told this story in another episode. My mom had asked me, she said, she said, what drove you to not, because when CCA took over Lake Erie after you had left, it was drugs in there nonstop. They were just because the perimeter detail that State Highway Patrol that the state picked up, it fell on the sheriff of the township, and the sheriff was short on resources from budget cuts. So I'm going to post a video. I'll send you the video after here, but it's about Lake Erie. But they had budget cuts in the past few years. They didn't have the manpower to watch the walls. So when CCA took over, it was just a free for all of stuff coming over the walls: cell phones, tobacco, dope, whatever you could think of. They were weapons. They were coming over the wall, and my mom had asked me. She said, what kept you sober once you got down there? Like, what was? Because she watched the video and she was like, everything was down there that you wanted. And I was like, to be honest with you, I said the first time, and this is all it was, the first time that Christopher and Nevaeh, I didn't see either of the kids through county because my mom didn't want the glass between us. And we knew once we got to prison, I'd be able to have like touch visits, and she thought it would be traumatic for the kids. So I was like, okay, I get it, that's fine. Very first visit, I think it was an hour or 2 hour visit. I don't remember what it was. Kids are sitting on my lap. I'm playing with them. They're back in the room. We're playing with them. We're playing board games. We're laughing. We're eating. We're having a great time. And they call visit. And I go to hug my kids, man. And they put the jaws of life around my neck. And they were kicking and screaming. And Dad, I just want you to come home. Dad, I want to, you know what I mean? And I, that like broke me, dude.
Oh
It
yeah.
was, it was, I'm like, what the fuck am I doing out here? So, that was kind of my like driving force in staying clean, staying on the up and up, and continuing to improve myself. And then I came home and I'm like, I have to show my kids that I'm a fighter. I have to show my kids that I love them, that I'm going to do whatever it takes to stay home for them. So you know what I mean? It was, and you know my story. It was custody and everything else after that. But so what was your driving force? What was your motivation when you came home?
My son, 100%. My son, and to show. I mean, and honestly, like I said, even with the stuff, my marriage wasn't over at that time. I mean, it was obviously we were on the rocks, obviously with everything that had happened. But my driving force was to show like this was I made a first time I made a mistake. The second time, I made a bad decision. Now,
Yeah.
you only make a mistake. You only make a mistake on the same thing one time. The next time it was a bad decision. And so my driving force was to show my ex-wife and my son also that this is not, daddy, this is not who I am. And I didn't see him at all at that point. I hadn't seen him for a year. I didn't see him until shortly after the new year once I got out. So I hadn't seen him for about a year, a little over a year at that point. And to me, like, kids don't ask to come here, we bring them here. So uh I was like, I'm not a part-time dad, never have, never will be. My kids, and I feel like sometimes, and not to go off on a tangent, but society is like diminishing the role of a man. And
Yeah.
you can't, it's very, very important for boys and girls. And so, and my mom and dad talked to me about that. And, you know, and so he needed me. Like, I knew there was other, he had uncles and stuff like, but he needed his father, his dad. And so my driving force was, listen, I'm going to make sure I can do what I have to do in order to start spending time with my son. I had to do supervised visits and I had to do all this stuff. And I walked the line, did everything that I had to do. And then, getting custody, not getting shared parenting. So I have the same amount of time
Yeah.
with him that his mom. And it wasn't out of spite. It was nothing. It's because he needed the same amount of time with the both of us. That was it. I
Yeah.
mean, we have a wonderful working relationship at this point, co-parenting. I have a working relationship with, my girls' mom. But my driving force was to listen. This ain't it. This ain't it. I'm not gonna let this define who I am. I'm not gonna let, looked at felonies and getting a job and this, and I had so many great opportunities. Excuse me, great opportunities, great people supporting me. I mean, I went from, I worked at, got a job as soon as I got out, and worked and just continued to, statistically, uh, me, and this is just a black male felon, I'm not supposed to be where I'm at right now, statistically.
Right.
Statistics would say, but I'm not a fucking statistic. I'm Willie Berry. That's, so
Well, I appreciate that. I
yeah,
like that. Yeah.
I'm not. And so I did what I had to do. And it wasn't just for me, it was because I had people, regardless. And that's just the person that I am. I still had a son, whether she's my wife or ex-wife. I still have I'll still help do whatever I have to do for you. But if I'm locked up or I'm out here doing stupid stuff, all I'm doing is being a hindrance or a burden.
Yep.
And so, and I'm not going to sit here and act like I've been an angel and a saint, and I haven't been back to jail, thank God. Uh, but my driving force is the people that depend on me, and not just for money or not just but for emotional support. For, if you're not there, you can't support them. I mean, the people that 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 I can help or do. Like, I my buddy put it to me one day somehow. The way that he said it, he was like, when you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, you could be messing up somebody else's blessing, because that you might be
Yeah.
that blessing. Buddy, you
Well,
that
go ahead.
good.
No.
I was gonna say, yeah. He just said you might be that, but God, obviously God, but mean same thing. He's trying to get our attention, and
Yeah.
he did what, and what, we made our own bad choices, but did what he had to do to get our attention, and that's to get you away from everything and anything that you feel comfortable with, and put you in a position that makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah. I find it wild 10 years down the road, after I went down the path that I went down, after I wished for death on a daily basis. I never had the balls to actually pull the trigger and do it myself, but I find it's just wild to me looking back, and I'm like, this is where I was, and I I got my consequences came. You know what I mean? So
Right.
then you come home and you set your focus on, this is why I'm doing this, and it was my kids. I'm going to be a father. I'm going to be a better son, a better husband, a better. But then, through that process of going through those 10 years, for me anyway, I kind of put myself on the back burner. I but about 5 years into it, 6 years into it, I have my wife. She's really like, she's a big advocate on always stay working on yourself, always be progressing, so on and so forth. And then, so then I start like focusing on me and what's making me happy and so on and where I'm at, you know what I mean? And you look back and you see all these steps that you've taken, and what you're really doing is you're building, because like we talked about earlier, you and I are kind of the same, as where if we're out helping people, that's actually doing something internally for us. You know what I
Right.
mean? So then I was able to like kind of look back and see that, you know, I got custody of my kids and I made all these great steps, and I have a really great career, and I've built my career up to this point, and I have a great wife, a home, of, you know what I mean, a relationship with a reestablished relationship. And it's just steps. It's one step, one step, one step, one step. And then one day the light just comes on and you're like, I don't understand why I would have ever been in that situation. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I was so miserable and so caught up in all my own shit and so woe is me that, and I love looking back on it and being able to say where I was to where I am. And I'm sure
Right.
you're the same way, because you didn't get there just by doing what you were supposed to. You did what you wanted to, which was the next best thing. And you basically built a pyramid off it, and you're climbing your way to the top. You know what I mean? And you can look back and see all the progress that you've made. And I that itself to me is now kind of the driving force, as well as everything that I've surpassed. I don't want to say that it's down here, but everything that I've climbed and hurdled and jumped over, I can look back and be proud of that. Now I feel good about myself. I feel good about what I'm doing. I feel good about the life that I have. You know what I mean? So it's one of those, it's almost like I I'm not going to bring AA into it, because I know no press or media, and I respect that, but it's that whole self change theory that they kind of preach and come up with, like, overall in the group. Um, and I love that. It's nothing changes if nothing changes.
Nothing changes, right? And
So
I think
I mean, you,
say that. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, go.
I wanted that because you talk about us wanting to help, the help one people because it helps us, and then you think and you look back, and then you say, as your wife says, it's always building, trying to build yourself up. I can say for myself, always wanting to be, and I think I used this before. Not it is I want to be useful to people.
Yeah,
I would like to be not a burden. Like, not that I'm, I want to be useful. Not that I'm, just use me or whatever. I want to be useful. I don't want to be a burden to anybody. And then to think, like I said, but you have to take care of yourself. Like I said, and when you were saying that, it's almost like a catch-22, because that's not the way that we think. We think, well, I
right.
need someone else. I need to help somebody else.
Yeah.
I'm fine because I'm walking, or I'm alive, whatever. And so I think, but thinking about it, and like you said, building those steps by steps, I've always been the kind of person to look out like further than I need to.
Oh, I'm the same way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but just take that first step, and then you don't have to worry about looking. You don't have to worry, because you don't know where those steps are going. Sometimes they go straight up. Sometimes they're going to go over to the side. Some things are not going to be. And so I think at times I got caught up, even with, in building and continuing life. And once again, like you said, not really, forgetting about myself, because I have this goal. I have this goal of, I need to do this for, I need to do this. And it's not just necessarily for me. So I got caught up in looking out here, as opposed to just taking the first step. So then you stumble. So then when you stumble, first thing, I'll be honest, when you stumble, first thing I'm thinking of is, here I go. Woe is me. Yep, here, yep,
yeah.
that you're proving people right, or this, that, or the other. You know what I mean?
People
And,
right. Yeah.
so, and it's just like, taking that step, and honestly, and I'm at that point right now as well, as like to um, just continuing to better myself, so that, I got two little girls, man. And I saw this thing that said, would you want your daughters to marry you? And I had to really take a step back, not marry, marry a person like you. And I had to take a step back, like,
Yeah. My wife actually just asked me that not too long
Right, like
ago, and for the first time in my life, I was able to wholeheartedly and truthfully say yes.
right, exactly. And so, I definitely, I think, I don't regret the military at all. I mean, it had a lot happen, a lot went on, uh, eh, you know, I wouldn't want them, I don't know, military guy, but, um, yeah, absolutely. Because there's not going to be, if he's a protector and he is a protector, or he is a provider, absolutely.
Yeah.
Obviously, everybody has emotions and things that they need to work on, but
I'll tell you, I mean, since just to kind of, and not to cut you off, but to cut you off a little bit, my wife made a statement to her ex-husband when we had gotten together, and I had had 2 years home of good time under my belt, and her and her ex-husband were going through a divorce, and which is Flynn's father, and he had made a comment to her, that's the type of guy that you're going to have our son around. And this is why I love my wife, Will. She turned and she looked at him and she said, out of all the people on this earth, she said, I would rather have him around somebody that has seen the pits of hell, overcome adversity, and is still working to overcome adversity than somebody that checks all the boxes on a piece of paper and has, you know what I mean, skeletons in their closet. She was like, you
Mhm.
don't know him. She said, I've talked to him long enough that I understand where he was and that that's not who he is anymore. So yes, that's who I want around my son. So I found a lot of value in what you just said there, because it's relatable. You know what I mean? Like you can look back and at this point say, yeah, I at this point, yeah, I want my daughter around. I want somebody that's overcome adversity in their life and can understand the rainbows and sunshine's not always going to be out, and they're going to know how to handle it. I want somebody who can navigate the streets if we're ever caught up in a situation. I want somebody that can speak professionally and look professional if we ever have to go have dinner with my parents. You know what I mean? It's kind of like it's on all ends. Like um, so yeah, I mean, that's it. I don't regret, and I think I said this earlier, I don't regret anything that I've ever done at this point in my life, because it's all been a learning experience,
Right.
um, and a building experience, and so on and so forth. So
I saw a T-shirt, man. This is something that was really cool to me. It said, I think it was Nelson Mandela said it. It says, "If I never lose, if I don't win, I learn.
yeah,
I never lose. If I'm not winning, if I didn't win, I learned." And
yeah,
so that's how I look at it. There was a lot of times that there was, once again, I finally went through counseling and stuff for military and all that stuff, and just understanding. Like, I used to, I regret it all sometimes. It was the military's fault. No, it wasn't the military's fault. It was your fault. It was your fault, Willie. You
yeah.
had to do. You just didn't want to.
Accountability is huge, man.
Right.
Accountability is huge in getting through your bullshit.
And so I was just like, no, it's not your fault. It's not the military's fault. Military didn't do it. You signed up. Number one. Number two, you had all the resources you needed, and you just didn't use them. You
Yeah.
used what you wanted to do, the selfishness portion of it. And you know, I don't, like I said, I don't. Everything is ordained for me. Like I said, I know God is sovereign. Everything's ordained by God. And where I am now, where I was then, and where I am now, has all been ordained by God, and what's going on. Like I said, just doing it. As soon as I saw this, I was like, I want to do it just because I want to be able to. Like I said, nobody. There's a lot of people that don't know I've ever been to jail at all.
Yeah.
Um, you
No,
know,
you threw me when because yeah, I had no idea.
but that's and the reason for that. And had I not been to jail, I may not be what I am. I may not be where I'm at today. You know what I mean? I might still be. You know, who
Oh,
knows where
I guarantee I wouldn't be. I would be had I not walked that path, I would be a piece of shit today. I know
I
I could say that wholeheartedly, truthfully, with my hand to God. I know I would be.
that's where I'm put. That's where I say where I think I would have done something way worse, and been
Yeah.
either got up worse or got anything. So I was just a young dumb kid. Thank God I'm a man now. I mean, I think I am.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think you are too. I mean, I think you've had a great story. I think you understand the dichotomy of what it takes to, you know what I mean, grow and build yourself and make something of yourself. So and this will be one of the last few questions, unless you get me off on another tangent. What coming home from the military, coming home from prison, having to rebuild your life, so on and so forth. And this is something I'm asking everybody. For anybody that might be struggling, maybe looking at jail time, maybe so on and so forth, how do you gauge success? Like, what is success to you?
For me, success, honestly, it ain't money, it ain't a home, it ain't cars, it's not things. Success for me, honestly, is can I be better today than I was yesterday? If I can do that, if I can be better today than I was yesterday, that's successful. So then that also goes with that step. So you're still making that step. So for me, I mean, do people want to make money? People want to have nice things, obviously, but that's not what makes me
Yeah,
successful. Be better today than I was yesterday, and to allow God to use me. That's it. I mean, that's my
I only laugh. What you said is not funny at all. What I mean, those were my. So I had my cousin Brian come on and do my very first episode, and he kind of asked me questions, and at the end, he asked, "What's your version of success?" And I said word for word what you just said. As long as you're doing better today than you were yesterday.
that's it.
Um, and it's just funny, man, because the more and more of these that I'm doing, it's the same mindset, and a lot of these guys just they don't have the mindset, and that's what breaks my heart. That's why I want to do this, because people need to understand, not all felons are bad people. Like, there's this stigma that nobody ever touches on. It's a topic that nobody ever like bridges. It's once you get that mark, you're marked. But there's this other side of it where you have all these guys that they just get. I was talking to one on Saturday morning at the barber shop, and he was telling me, he's like, man, I'm just depressed. Like, I don't feel successful. And I looked at him and I said, can you wake up in the morning and take a breath? Can you wake up and do you have a job? Do you have a roof over your head? And I said, so that's all you have, all your needs. Everything else is just wants. But when you can wake up and you can be grateful for the things that you have in your life, and you can rest your head on your pillow at night and go to sleep without worrying about cops kicking your door in, or this or pending charges, or when you have peace in your life, that's overarchingly my definition of success. You know what I mean? If I want to go get a boat, I can save some money and go get a boat. You know what I mean? And if I want to, but to actually like build yourself back up and to like get out of that stinking thinking mindset or whatever it is, where that takes actual work. Like, that takes work, that takes raw emotions, that takes patience. And I think once you learn to work on that aspect of your success, um, that's when you really grow, and that's when you see the most fruitful results, and that's when you see the most changes and the most progress. And I think
Right.
that's why I asked that question, because people need to understand success isn't a dollar amount. Success isn't a truck. It's not a boat. It's you. Are your kids happy? Do you have a good relationship with your kids? Do you have a good relationship with your family? And you don't need all those, but are you happy?
Right.
Um, so is
I get
there, yeah. Um, so okay, just rounding this thing out, is there any advice you would like to give to anybody out there struggling, maybe with pending charges, maybe looking to come home?
if you're the only thing I can say is like you said, and I think with us saying the same exact word for word, be better to no matter where you're at, be better. So be better. You're not always going to make the best decisions. You're not always going to be, make, flawless choices. You're not always going to be able to, you're not going to always be your best self, but just
Yeah.
be better today than you were yesterday. And that's it. I mean,
And
that
do it for you.
right.
Don't
Yes.
do it for the court. Don't do it for your PO. Don't do it for anybody. Even, yes, I get that whole like sidebar of your kids and your family, but you have to do it for you.
You get just like on an airplane, right? the masks come down, what do? You got to put yours
Yeah.
on first before you can help. And so I'm glad that
Exactly.
do it for you, because if you're doing it for the court, how long are you going to sustain it once
Yeah.
court's over? You know what I
It's gonna
mean?
be it's a sideshow. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad that you said that. Yeah, definitely do it for, yeah, like you said, do it for yourself, because you owe it to yourself. You owe it to yourself.
Yeah.
Nobody's locked up in the freaking cage. I mean, there are people that do things that probably definitely deserve it, but I mean, at the end of the day, bottom line, we're all people. God loves us all regardless, and He wants to see the best. He wants to see the best from us, but we have choices and decisions to make to get there. And
Yeah.
so, like, you ain't gonna always make the flawless decision. You ain't always gonna be your best self, but be better today than you were yesterday. And that's all I can. That's. I mean, that's funny that you. That's funny. Yeah, and that's the
Right on,
difference.
brother.
And that's the difference between people with that mindset. That's thinking. I'm gonna use that now.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
I used to get into it, man. I'd be like, no, man, it's not fair. And no. I'm like,
Dude, I still fall into it. But again, I have a great woman in my life, and she snaps me as soon as she hears me start. She's like, "Stop it! We're not doing that. Knock it off."
like,
So,
right, yeah.
quit crying. The biggest baby I've ever seen in my life.
I got a great girl now too, man, and she's the same way.
Good.
She'll just say, just stop. That's all.
Yeah.
She'll be like, just
Knock it
stop.
off. Right on.
Nobody's listening.
I greatly appreciate you coming on here, man. Like I super appreciate it. You were great. I think this is going to turn out to be a great episode. Um, I would like to have you back on at some point. At some point I'm gonna start getting like a couple guys on at a time, and we'll just shoot the shit.
No, that'd be
Where you're at that point, where they're at, like we'll pick a topic, kind of rap back and forth. But I absolutely want to have you back on. Again, I appreciate you coming on, man. This is the type of story that we need to hear more of. You know what I mean? Your story, my story, the other guy's story, and that's what I want to put out here, and that's what you have. And I'm so thankful. I appreciate you. I thank you for serving our country. And more so, I appreciate the fact that you chose to invest in yourself and just be better and do better. It's awesome. So
I appreciate you too, man. Like I said, I appreciate you doing this. I appreciate you bringing light, bringing light to things, and I just, yeah, this is all. I think it's great, man. I think this is
cool.
this is a great idea. Yeah. So
I appreciate that. So, all right, I'm gonna sign off. I will talk to you soon. I'm gonna shoot you a text here when we get off here. Cool.
all right, yeah, sounds good, man. Take it. Be
All
safe
right,
out
man.
there.
I'll talk to you. Bye.
All right, bro.